I do worry about the example it sets when our leaders do not support the party nominee, because in the future, we will need folks to rally behind the presidential nominee.
He is bringing people out who never voted. He is bringing blacks and whites and Latinos and Asians, everybody together around a really strong agenda talking about affordability in New York. What is not to like?
Then, of course, from a CNN town hall, Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talking about how some national Democrats are not backing New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. With us now is CNN political commentator Bakari Sellers, also Republican strategist Melik Abdul. Bakari, let me just start with you. How do you balance that? How should national Democrats, do you think, balance the energy that Mamdani has versus the risk that some see with some of his positions?
First of all, I think you have to learn from Mandani. I think that what he talked about is the biggest issue that we have in the country, which is affordability. The way that he took that message and he packaged that message, and he was able to reach voters, as Bernie Sanders said, who usually are not touched by a Democratic message. He was able to do that. But to AOC's point, it's a little rich because Mamdani is someone who didn't even support Kamala Harris for president. Mamdani is somebody who actually believes in the purity test that we're trying to move away from. And there are many people who have issue with whether or not he will be a mayor that's inclusive for all of New York. Many people are questioning his ability to lead and whether or not he will be a good mayor during this time when you need somebody who's fierce, who's going to be a fighter, and whether or not he is going to somewhat renounce the positions he's taken when it comes to Jewish communities around the country. And so I think those are questions that leaders have, and those are questions that Mandani has to answer if he's going to be a leader for all of New York City.
Melik, to what extent do Republicans have to be a little careful here of, be careful what you wish for? Because Democrats in the past have sort of, wished for more radical Republicans to run against, only to have it backfire for them in some cases because of the energy produced there. What do you think, Melik?
I think that's a fair point, and I'm going to be consistent with Bakari this morning. No need to fight. I'm going to agree with a lot of the things that he said, and you're right. We've seen similar things on the Republican side. Now, I just say this. I'm a party guy, and this is much to the chagrin of a number of people. I don't think that it's appropriate that any major Democrat shouldn't be, at this point, backing Mandani. Of course they should. I understand many of the things that he's said in the past, many of the things that he's done in the past. He has, to some degree, denounced some of the things that he said in the past, but I think that we're talking about a different era. I think the Republicans have to be concerned about what does this mean, to Bakari's point, on the larger scale, because he is talking about some of the many things that actually was responsible for Donald Trump being elected into office, paying lower prices, having more money in your pocket. So he is talking about those things, and so Republicans do have to be concerned about it from a national perspective.
I'm a different kind of party guy. I prefer chips and nachos at all my parties. If they're there, then I'm good. Bakari, I want to play for you some sound of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez being asked about whether or not she's basically going to primary Chuck Schumer and whether Schumer's, pushing the shutdown to try to avoid that. Listen.
It is honestly astonishing to me that the Speaker of the House would waste his time on something so inane and silly instead of actually worrying about his own constituents who are suffering at the hands of his leadership.
But are you saying that Senator Schumer should not be worried about a primary challenge from you?
I mean,
All right.
no.
Let me jump in on this one. This is what
we're talking about.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
This is what we're talking about.
You have a country that is falling apart. We had a housing crisis, a healthcare crisis, an education crisis, massive income and wealth inequality, a corrupt campaign finance system, and the media says, "Oh, you're going to run. What are you going to run for?" Nobody cares.
No answer detected there, I will note, Bakari. But let me shift this if I can.
No, that's not.
Yeah, hang on.
That's not
actually,
true, John. She answered the question.
Well, but she didn't say yes or no.
No.
She didn't say no that she wasn't
said
running
no.
against. She didn't say no. She wasn't going to run against Chuck Schumer. She did. What she did say is she said this focus should be somewhere else. She absolutely did not rule out a primary campaign against Chuck Schumer. There, she said she didn't think his motivations were about it. But this is the issue, Bakari. What I want to get to is generational politics. in the Democratic Party, and I'm looking right at you here. Because obviously you have this possibility of Congresswoman Cortez running against Chuck Schumer. In Massachusetts, you have Congressman Seth Moulton, who may primary Senator Ed Markey. In Maine, you've got this race between Janet Mills, the incumbent governor, who may run for... I think we actually have pictures of these people we can put up. Janet Mills, the incumbent Democratic governor, who may run for Senate there, and Graham Plattner right there may run against her. Bakari, for the Democrats, how important is it to have a generational shift?
Oh, very important. I used to say that the Republicans gave breath to the young people in their party. I remember the young guns. I don't know if we remember the young guns. Eric Cantor, Matt Ryan, Kevin McCarthy. All of them have since been fired. But there was a Bobby Jindal, a Marco Rubio, a Nikki Haley, the former governor of, I mentioned Bobby Jindal, Ted Cruz, for example. They actually gave breath to a lot of young individuals coming into leadership in their party. And the Democratic Party for a long period of time was extremely old. And what I think people are realizing now is that leadership right now, regardless of age, is not meeting the moment. Whether or not it's Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer, the question is, are they prepared for this moment? And so you're going to see a new wave of young people run. And I'm glad to see this. I'm glad to see younger members come into the CBC. I'm glad to see younger members challenge for the caucus. And you're going to see that. I mean, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a part of the future of the Republican Party. I think her sitting next to Bernie Sanders shows you the dichotomy of what was and what could be. And I think we're going to have more of that. Seth Moulton, another example. And people are going to have challenges as they go forward.
Melik, quick last word on that.
Yeah, I think that it will be eventually a problem for the Democratic Party. They've had a number of people, whether it was Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, so they've had younger people in the party. But I think on both sides, both Republican and Democrat, it is time for people to actually move on. And at a time where Congress is closed, even though they're still getting paid, the government is shut down, the people who are responsible for closing our government down at this point, I think it's time for all of them to go.
Well, it's nice to be part of this discussion among three young people here. Bakari Sellers, Melik, Abdul, I appreciate it very much.